Hello, my name is Ayala Connell and I'm a healthy eating coach and I specialize in gluten-free and paleo cuisine. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make sweet crepes with banana and chocolate filling. Oh, sounds decadent. Well, it's delicious for sure, but it's also pretty healthy. I'd say a little bit about paleo. Paleo, in essence, is a diet that is free of grain, free of legumes, free of refined sugars, and there's a couple of other things that are missing from the diet as well. But it's filled with healthy, unprocessed, nutritious foods. So often in these types of diets, this is where compliancy goes down, is when we're missing that nourishing texture, that nourishing feel of eating something that has that bready consistency or that warm pancake type of feeling. Well, you can actually achieve that with grain-free flours, with a paleo diet. And so I'm here to show you a very simple way of making a delicious sweet treat or also just a morning breakfast for you and for your kids. And it doesn't have to take that long either. Now what we're going to be doing is using a cast iron pan. I love using cast iron. It's one of my favorite appliance pieces in the kitchen. And it has a very rustic feel to it and it heats up really nicely. But you want to make sure once the cast iron is heated, right now I have it on medium-low, you want to definitely use hand protection when you move it around because it can get very hot on the handles. So I put a little bit of oil in. And you can use olive oil, you can use avocado or coconut oil because they definitely have a higher stability with heat and they don't smoke and burn as easily. And then what you're going to do is create your batter. So for paleo cooking and baking, a very common flour that we use is cassava flour. Now definitely in paleo you can do a lot of nuts, but in my family we have a lot of nut sensitivity. So I try to avoid nuts since I'm the primary cook, home chef in the kitchen. So I like to use cassava flour. And when you understand a little bit of the parameters of using it, it's the most fantastic flour. Cassava flour is made from the cassava root, or also known as the tapioca root. Now, many of you are familiar with tapioca starch, which is in a lot of gluten-free flours, or tapioca. Well, tapioca starch is actually the starch from the tapioca root. Cassava flour is a whole root flour. It's very nutritious. It's definitely not low caloric, so if you're trying to reduce your glycemic index, maybe you have blood sugar issues, this might not be the best dish to eat. Or maybe you can eat it on occasion, but it's definitely nutritious. It's a great fiber and it has good properties for your gut. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a small bowl. Now, I love doing single serving dishes. So as I said in some of the other videos, I have 2 kids and in the morning I often feel like a line chef, but it's still a lot of fun. I get dishes lined up for each kid and I create a batter for each crepe. And it's much simpler that way, and it's also easier to clean up because it's a bunch of smaller dishes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of cassava flour in here. Now, the measurements are not exact, and they really do not need to be. If you find that the batter's a little too thin or runny, add a little more flour. If you find that it's too thick, then you can add a little bit more liquid. So what I'm going to do is put about 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to take 1 egg. So this is great also because it's high protein. In 1 crepe, you're getting a whole egg. And I'm going to crack it. You can choose if you want to use a large egg or a medium egg. It really doesn't matter at all. And then I'm going to add a little bit of milk. Now I like to use hemp milk because as I said in my family we have some nut sensitivities, but nut milks are great. Coconut milk is very nutritious as well. But hemp milk is a good option. I tend to buy the unsweetened version, so I could just leave it in my fridge and use it for sweet or savory dishes. But I'm going to put about a 1/4 cup. And again, measurements is not that important. I'm going to put about a teaspoon of vanilla extract in to give it that vanilla undertone, which I love so much. Definitely my favorite flavor. And I like to put in a pinch of salt because a little bit of salt makes everything sweeter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk it up. Now, it's literally as simple as just whisking up the batter and getting all the lumps out. And when you first get started, it looks like, am I ever going to get this batter unlumpy? But it does happen, and it becomes very, very smooth, and that's really what you're looking for. You can see it's still pretty lumpy right now, but I'm just continuing. Start slow so you don't get flour everywhere because the cassava flour is very thin and can fly all over your kitchen. But once you get the flour incorporated and you're really just working on getting the lumps out, you can definitely whisk a little bit faster. And it's nice and easy because you don't have a big, huge bowl. And I'm just going to get all the lumps out. Okay, and you can see it's nice and smooth. And so what I'm going to do is make sure that the oil is spread around the pan and the pan is hot, medium-low heat, and that way it won't stick. And then I'm just going to take the batter and I'm going to pour it right into the middle of the pan, and it does not go out into the ends, which is fine. I happen to have a larger cast iron skillet, about a 12-inch, but it's okay if it's a smaller one and it does tend to go out into the perimeter, that's fine too. And what I'm going to do is just let it sit there for a bit and get set a little bit. I don't need it to be perfectly set yet to put the filling in, but I'm just going to get started. So what I typically do is I have banana that I've peeled and chopped into bite-sized pieces, and I'm going to put most of the filling on the inside, but I'm going to save some for the outside so that I can have some sort of for the presentation. And then I also have chocolate chips. So chocolate is definitely a love of mine, and I think for many women particularly, there's something about it that just feels just divine. But the key with paleo is finding sweet treats that don't have refined sugar. So Lily's is a great company. They use a little bit of sugar or alcohol, but mostly they use stevia. Another company that I love is Hu Kitchen, H-U Kitchen. It's out of New York City. You can find it at a lot of the Whole Foods, and they have chocolate bars that are coconut sugar sweetened and are so good. You can just chop those up and get them ready. You can also learn how to make chocolate on your own, which I do have some posts on how to do that, and it's just super decadent and fun to make it yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about a tablespoon of chocolate chips, and I'm going to just put it down the center of the crepe, and then I'm going to take about half my bananas and put them down the center. Now this particular crepe turned out a little bit thicker, but you can certainly have a bit of a runnier one that's going to be larger in circumference. And what I'm going to do, now that it's partially set, is I'm going to, well, first I'm going to show you what this looks like. You can see that it's got a vertical strip of bananas and chocolate. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold one side of it, and then I'm going to fold it again. And you can see kind of what it looks like. And I'm just going to let it sit there for a moment while it sets, and then I'm going to flip it again. And you can already smell the melted chocolate. It's so wonderful. And the bananas mixed in is always a really nice blend with the chocolate. And I'm just going to let it have a little bit longer. Now I'm just going to flip it so that it cooks on the other side as well. And it has a little bit of a crisp on the outside. And then what I'm going to do, when it's all done and cooked, another minute or so, I'm going to plate it, and I'm going to put a little bit more bananas on top. And then what I like to do instead of maple syrup is use honey. It just has a really nice texture, it glistens, and a really lovely flavor. And it also has some really nice anti-allergenic properties if you can find a honey that's more local. But maple syrup is a great option too. Maple syrup has a lot of minerals. And so certainly that's a good option for health. But again, if you have any type of blood sugar issues, this is definitely a high glycemic meal. Maybe not as high glycemic if it had refined sugars, but you want to be careful not having this too often if that is an issue for you, if you're trying to lose weight. But as far as anti-inflammatory, this is definitely an anti-inflammatory meal. And so now what I'm going to do is just put it right on the plate. And I'm going to take my bananas and just sprinkle them on top, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. And then I'm going to take a little bit of honey, maybe a teaspoon of honey. Don't need much more than that, and I'm just going to drizzle it on. You can see how delicious it looks. And now we're going to cut into it and give it a try. All right, I'll get the fork. Let's taste test. That is so delicious, so decadent with the chocolate. The bananas are wonderful. You can taste the honey, the vanilla. It's absolutely delicious and a great way to start the day. Lots of healthy nutritional benefits here. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and definitely tune in and check out more of my posts and videos on my food and health blog, and have a great day.